Hey guys, so today I just wanted to go over some songs I've been practicing lately and give you an idea of kinds of things I pull from, books I'm currently using that I've had for a long time, and just other things like that. So thanks for stopping by. I hope y'all are enjoying your day. But basically, I'm preparing to jam with some people I haven't played music with in a long time, and they had some song suggestions to learn. So a lot of these songs are songs I've been learning just for that, but some of the other ones have just kind of been what I've been practicing just throughout the week. So just so you guys have an idea. And then of course, after that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys have as well. So thank you for stopping by, and let's kind of jump into it. So the band that I'm playing with, that I'm getting to jam with, is a progressive rock band. We call ourselves Story of a Life. And so that, therefore, we have some songs on there that are a little bit more progressive. They also like the band Steely Dan a lot, so there are a couple Steely Dan tunes. And Chuck Rainey played bass with them, and he's just an awesome bass player, so the bass lines are fun. So I'm going to try to share with you some of the resources I've been using to learn some of that stuff rather than just picking it out by ear. Because when you have a lot of songs to do, sometimes that can take too long. So sometimes it's nice to have some sheet music and some videos to play along with on YouTube. And I think later on I'm going to link some of the resources on there. But for now, I haven't quite gotten all those links sorted out. So I'll probably link those in the description once this video isn't live. But for now, I'm just going to go through it. So I've had this book for years, over a decade, and it's a Rush anthology book. So it has a whole bunch of songs in it. And I've used it to learn a lot of songs over the past decade from Rush. So if you guys are familiar with Rush, I've used this book to learn YYZ. I've used this book to learn Spirit of Radio. And a long time ago, I learned a little bit of the Trees, but not the whole song. Yes, actually, hold on. I did work on it a little bit, actually. For the record, I have that open and ready to go. Not quite up to par on it, but I did work on it a little bit today. So anyway, so this time though with the Rush book, I'm working on the Trees. So what I'm trying to do is memorize the song, so I don't have to have this book open while I'm playing music with everybody. But basically, I don't quite have it all memorized, but I'm just going to let you guys know what I've been doing to go through it. So first, what I've been doing is kind of just playing through it, looking at the notation. And the reason I looked at the notation first rather than the tabs, it has both. It has the tabs and the notation. So the reason I've been looking at the notation first is because it has the rhythm. So I was going through kind of just playing it where I normally would. And then after that, if there were spots that were kind of tricky in there, then I would use the tab to kind of like work out how they suggest playing it and see if I like their suggestion better than the way I was playing it before. So doing that way, I've memorized most of the song, but there's still a couple things toward the end of the song that I have yet to completely memorize. But I'm just going to play a little excerpt that I really like from that song. So that's from the beginning of the song. So I've gotten a lot of it memorized now, but there's still a lot more left. So really quickly, since that's a quick question to answer, can you use round wound strings on a uke bass that comes with rubber strings? Yes, but only use the round wounds that are made for it. So the ones that the progressive curmudgeon was saying, basically there's some made by Kala that have a nylon core. So if you're going to use round wounds on it, you can put round wounds on one intended for rubber strings, and it's usually fine. Sometimes they recommend changing out the nut, which is this little piece right here. It's made of either plastic or bone. It depends on the model. And you may either have to change that out. Usually it's the other way around, though. If it comes with round wounds and you put rubber strings on it, you usually have to change that out. But to get the height right, you may have to do that as well. But yes is the answer. You should be able to do that. Cool. Oh, and Novice, congratulations on getting your loop pedal. I hope you get it by Monday or sooner. Awesome. Yeah, I'll be using mine here in a minute. But right now, so that was the trees. So that was that Rush song, The Trees. So that's kind of a good resource to go through. I'm basically just bringing this book up also to let you guys know, like, it has a lot of songs in it, right? And if you've listened to Rush before, you know Geddy Lee is a very, very amazing player and just very worth getting into. This one has like all the hits basically. So that's a really good resource, and I've used it for a lot of stuff. And this week I've been working on the trees out of it. Okay. So then for reading practice on the double bass, on upright bass, this book, it's one I've had for a while from one of my college professors told me to grab this book. And basically there's a lot of good technique stuff in here. It's just kind of a method book, but I sometimes like to just turn to his examples of walking lines. And some of his walking lines have a lot of little extra rhythmic figures thrown in. And these are jazz walking lines. And so they're just notated out, no tab or anything. And I just like going through there and trying to read them at a certain tempo. Like sometimes I'll set a metronome to 80 beats per minute. I think this week I didn't really use the metronome. I was just kind of reading through it. But the idea there is just working on reading ahead. So since that's one thing I wanted to get better on this year, it's like I like to play through that and just basically look as far ahead as I can while still keeping my place. So that's the idea on that. Cool. So I think I see some other people are talking about some of the other ones they've been working on. Awesome. Novix, you're working on some really hard ones, some really cool ones. That's good. Very cool. I'm going to go over that here in a minute, but that's awesome that you guys are all practicing a whole bunch of different things too. Glad to hear it. So very, very cool. And so then that band that I'm playing with, Story of a Life, they wanted me to learn some. There was a Chic song, actually, Everybody Dance. And if you've heard that song, I'm trying to remember the bass player's name. Is Bernard. Is it Edwards? Who is Bernard? Bernard. Yes, so it's Bernard Edwards. There's the bass player for that band. And he has this cool technique. I think he's using his thumb. I'm using my thumb for it. If he's not, he might be using his finger and his thumb, like almost like he's holding a pick. It's really hard to tell for me what he's doing, but I just like using the side of my thumb. The only downside to that is I've actually developed, you probably can't see it, but there's a little blister right there from doing this. So I'm only going to imitate it like shortly. If I don't get it right, I'm probably not going to do it again, basically is what I'm saying. Yeah, so I didn't quite get it there. But basically, I'm using my thumb like a pick. That kind of thing. And it's just a cool bass line that he does. So there's just like some cool stuff there, and it's a little bit abnormal because of that technique, but it's a cool technique. Victor Wooten does the double thump a lot where he's using his thumb. So I'm just basically playing it that way, even if that's not quite exactly how Bernard's doing it. It's very, very cool stuff on there. And then in addition to that, I tried to do a little bit of Bernadette, and it's not really too bad. It's just getting my brain to kind of look ahead in time and doing other things like that. But I have that one open on here. That one I'm not doing for the band. That one's just kind of for fun. But if you haven't heard the song Bernadette, it's a Motown classic, of course. And what's cool is this book comes with a CD, and they were basically getting people to just play a whole bunch of Motown lines, a lot of the ones that James Jamerson were on, but maybe a few others as well. And what's really kind of kind of funny about this is I've been working on a lot of Steely Dan this week too. And Steely Dan's bass player is Chuck Rainey. Well, on this, they have bass players redoing the tracks, and they have a whole bunch of famous guys that just came in. And so out of all of them, Bernadette's the song that they got Chuck Rainey to re-record the bass line on, and then they give you the notation for it. So it's kind of cool because there's a version in here on the CDs that come with the book where it's Chuck Rainey playing the bass line, but it's the same line, which is pretty cool. And Callum, yes, I would recommend not putting the steel strings. I don't think it'll actually snap, but it might mess up the tuners more than anything, because wrapping metal, just like the solid metal core around them and everything, might mess that up as well. But yeah. So I might try to do Bernadette. I felt like I was doing pretty good a minute ago, but I only went over that one a little bit today. So unfortunately, it's probably still shaky, but it's still fun. And I'm going to do it on this one because the Wanderer's having a little bit of issues. Let's see if I can do this. I have a chair over here instead of a music stand, so we'll see what happens. What was that one? That's not quite it. There it is. So that's the intro from it. The verse isn't too bad. I'm just going to play one of my favorite measures from the verse. That's the part that was completely new to me today, is the verse part. But there's one part that kind of illustrates that whole cliches of Motown lines that I was trying to say, the James Jamerson style, where it's like that 5-6-1. I'm going to play it over here this time, just to get it under my fingers. Let's see, how did this line go? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, whoops. I'll get it in a second. But I'm trying to play a little bit of it. It's a really cool thing, though. And so then it goes back like that. Yeah. So there's some cool stuff in there, but the verse is still kind of new to me, so I haven't really done too much of that. So it's like dun, dun. So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3. Yeah, so I mean, I'm still not that great at reading the Motown lines like that, but it's kind of fun. Awesome. So I see you guys talking about the strings a whole bunch in there. I'm getting distracted by it, but yeah, there's a whole bunch to be said about the strings. I do think that doing slap bass, you probably do want the round wounds. The flat wounds are pretty cool too, but the round wounds sound more like an electric bass when you slap them. So I do think that is a good call if you're trying to go for slap. Okay, so there's a little bit of Bernadette. I know I still don't have the whole thing down, and honestly, it's just the verse and the chorus. There's a bridge section, but the bridge is actually easier than the rest of it. When I went through and played it earlier, I didn't play it at full speed. I played it very slowly, but that one's also kind of cool. Okay, so this is just a resource that I wanted to mention. It's like for those that remember telephone books. I don't think they've existed for a while. This is obviously a bass book modeled after that, the Bass Tab White Pages. So this one's got a whole bunch of songs in there, but occasionally I just try to like open it to a random page. And then what I do is I try to read the bass line. Oh, cool. I turned it to Owner of a Lonely Heart. That's interesting. I already know that one, but well, that's funny. They notated part of the guitar part as bass, I think. It might be that both did it. But basically, I'll just open it up and I'll try to sight read some stuff. So you open it up and you're like, okay, you can look at the tab, but you can look at the notation. Lately, I've just been using it to try to read the notation, not the tab. So this is obviously just a root fifth line. Okay, Well, that's kind of boring. But you get the idea. This doesn't even have very much variation. Okay, so you get the idea. So that one wasn't a very exciting line, but you can kind of like turn to random pages and just like practice through it. I'm sure it gets more interesting later, a little bit more than that. But yeah, there's just a whole bunch of things in here. The last thing that I read in here this week was I was talking to somebody about the song Crazy Little Thing Called Love. So I just looked through here to find that and played through that a little bit. But it's a really good resource if you're just wanting to learn a whole bunch of stuff. Okay, so that's just another resource that's kind of fun. Okay, so Navik says, I hate when they have tabs right under the notation. It distracts me from sight reading. That has been one thing that had been really frustrating for me growing up, is that I would be trying to get better at my reading, but I wouldn't be able to get my eyes to look away from the tab, basically. And you can train yourself to do it. So it took me quite a while to be able to do that, but I think it's good to have there, because like, let's say you're playing it and you're playing it a certain way just based on your reading, your default reading notes, basically. So, if you like playing an A here versus here, but maybe they have it notated there. So sometimes it's nice to go back in and check with it. It's a little bit distracting, I agree, but you can train yourself to get over it. I had to go through a long period of just not getting distracted by it as well. But I think it's good to work on both. But I bought that so that I had that giant book of stuff to read. My plan was to cover up the tab and do that. But I found that just a little bit of discipline, you start realizing that you get way more information out of just reading the notes. So if it's a song that you don't know, you're not going to be tempted to look at the tab if the rhythm's weird, because the tab won't give you anywhere near enough information without looking at the rhythm too. So if you just kind of train your brain that way on songs that you don't already know, then it kind of helps you to not get distracted by it. But that's a really good resource too. It has a bunch of songs in it, and if you do want to use the tab, it's there too. So if you're not trying to learn how to read, then that's cool too. So let's see. I had some other stuff for the band. I'm going to try to pull up some stuff on here. There's some YouTube videos online that had the notation with the tab underneath it as well. And they had that for Home at Last and Jump by Van Halen, which most of Jump is really, really easy, but it's got a couple of parts that are pretty fun. And I've been trying to kind of memorize that. So, the part that's like, was and then it goes back to that normal part. So that to me is the coolest part, and I didn't even really know it was there. And then one other part was the solo section. It's really easy, and it's just octaves and then a power chord at the end. But it's kind of a more fun bass line than I realized was there in those two spots. I kind of downplayed how simple the song sounded, since most of it is really right. Since most of it's just that, so it was kind of nice just checking all that extra stuff. I'm afraid if I jumped that the internet would get disconnected, the mic would fall off the table, and the webcam might jump off the top of the computer. But yeah, I could probably do that when I'm playing with other people. But honestly, playing a bunch of C while jumping, not too bad. Playing the other part might be a little tricky. All right, well, Colin, thanks for hanging out while you're able to. I'm sure I'll see you later on. Oh, on stage, not here. Yeah, that's a good call, because I did it here. A lot of things in my house would probably like fall over. So maybe I will if we ever get to play on a stage again. But that's another story. Well, we will, I'm sure. I'm just saying it might be way later on in the year. Okay, so that's right. I was going to pull up basically what I did. There was a this is kind of a painstaking way to get the sheet music for something for free, so I don't recommend it. But there was a video that had Home at Last, the Steely Dan song. And it had it was like a play along basically, where it had the tabs and the notation on screen. And so basically what I did was I paused each part of the video where the tabs changed or the notation changed. And the cool thing about their notation is that it had the music on top, the tabs on bottom, but the tabs had the stems still to tell you what the rhythm was while looking at them. So I kind of did the shortcut thing instead of reading on that song, of just trying to look for the what am I trying to say? That I was just trying to look at the frets instead of worrying about the notes on that one. So let's see if I can find that one. I know I saved it, but my computer also crashed earlier. So let's see if it's still saved. There it is. So I'm just going to play some of the line just because it's actually a really fun line. And once again, it's Chuck Rainey playing on it. So it's pretty fun. Hopefully this is still working. My computer seems to be a little bit slow right now. 2, 3, 4. So that's one part that's really fun. And then the second part's also really cool. So if you get a chance to check that one out, I'll try to include the videos that I was pulling from. Oh, I started in the middle of the pattern, sorry. And I played the rhythm wrong there, but you get the idea. It's kind of a fun groove. It's over a drum beat that's called a Purdy shuffle. If you know who Bernard Purdy is. Sorry. I'm going to close that out because I think it was causing my computer to glitch. But that's the idea. So it's kind of fun just going through that. Okay. So I guess I'm going to kind of jump back from that. But that gives you an idea of what I was working on with that one. I didn't realize how cool that bass line was. Basically, when I was playing with the same musicians before, and they would like call that song to just jam when we were having fun, just hanging out, playing music, I was just following a chord sheet. And it's like, after actually hearing the bass line, it's like, man, that's so much cooler than what I was playing. I got to learn it. So, yeah, but the drum beat just like has like a kind of triplet feel to it. And so it's like, picture that against triplets. Right? So if you kind of picture that like overlaid on that kind of drum fill, it's probably not really Spy Hunter like, but it's kind of fun. Anyway, so that's that one. And then they had a few other songs I was working on. Another Steely Dan song called Aja, AJA. So that one's pretty cool as well. And that one, the bass line's not as crazy. And there was actually just a tab on Ultimate Guitar for that one. And it was like 90% correct, but they left out one really cool fill that I had to figure out. I'm trying to remember how it goes. So I think it was just that. It's nothing crazy, but they just had it written as like, and it's like there was really this cool, right? And then it goes back to it. So but besides that, I think they had the line almost entirely correct, note for note, minus like putting one fret on the wrong string or something one time. But otherwise, they did an excellent job of notating that out, which made it a lot easier for me to work on that one. But that's basically what I've been working on this week. So I'd like to hear what you guys have been working on. And if you guys have any questions, I guess I'm just going to kind of go through the side over here and see if what to respond to, basically. Okay. So Seth says he had the opposite problem of me when I was talking about the tabs and the notation being stacked. I knew how to read notes before I learned how to read tabs. Then I found tabs easier, but now I really go back to just notes. Yeah, so I've enjoyed doing notes because if I'm hired to read something on stage and they're going to let me have a music stand and have to be able to do that, those aren't going to have tabs on it, and a lot of times it'll be an upright gig or it'll be a musical. And the people that make those charts aren't making it for just a bass player. They're having to make it for the whole band. So they're not going to want to sit there and figure out how to play the bass to notate the instrumentation of that out for tab. So they do it the way they already know based on every other instrument. And that's why I'm trying to get better at reading that instead of relying on the tab, because there are a lot of instances where you won't have that. And because it gives you the rhythm and the notes at the same time, which is kind of nice. And so that helps too. All right. So I'm going to kind of go backwards through the chat, and I'll eventually get to that, Seth, here in a second. I think I saw a couple of them, though. So beginner question, what do the dots on the fretboard correspond to? So these dots basically just give you a reference point. So like let's say you're trying to figure out what fret you're on. You could count up like 1, 2. Okay, now I'm on the 3rd fret. 1, 2. Okay, now I'm on the 5th fret. But the dots are there to kind of just memorize that stuff. 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th fret, 9th fret. Just think about them as like the odd number frets for the ones that are single dots in a row. And then the reason there are 2 dots on the 12th fret is that's an octave up from your open string. So if you played the open A string, where those 2 dots are the A an octave above that note. If your intonation's really good, which mine's pretty good, not perfect, but you get the idea on the instrument. But just one of the things about having such a short scale instrument, sometimes the intonation isn't perfect. But anyway, you've got that octave above there. So that one's there to let you know. It's almost like the fretboard is starting over again. That's like your open strings again, and anything above that would kind of correspond to these notes down here. A lot of electric basses will have more dots after the 12, and they would just be in the same places that these were. So the 15th fret would be 12 plus 3. So open plus 3, 12 plus 3. And then they'd have one on the 17th fret, which would be like the 5th fret up 12, if that makes sense. So they're kind of just to reference that. And then why is it the 3rd, 5th, 7th, and 9th? I think it's because a lot of the keys that you're gonna play in are gonna use notes on the dots more often, depending on what key you're playing in. So G major and E minor pentatonic are gonna use a lot of those dotted notes, but I think they're basically just a reference point to answer that. All right, so I'm gonna go back in and see what songs you guys have been working on. Let's see. The Cake version of the song I Will Survive. I don't think I do that one note for note. Was it I know it's a box shape kind of thing. And then I can't remember if he changes the 7th for the major chords or not. I can't remember the rhythm at all. Oh my goodness. But at some point I did learn that version, but now I just kind of make it up when I play it, just kind of get the basic vibe and just know that it's the box shape and just kind of go for it with that one. And then play that funky music. Yeah, a lot of people think the bass line is the same as that guitar part, the whole. But that's not the bass part at all. The bass part is like, was it right? I think that's pretty close. Yeah, I think that's it. But basically, it's more downbeat oriented, and it kind of makes the song groove a little bit more. It's not quite as syncopated, so it locks in with the drums a little bit better. this. Something like that. Well, actually, I think once it gets to the F, it stops doing that. Or boom. Something like that. For the other song. Sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent. That's more the I Will Survive, the Cake version. That's kind of what I do. It's not perfectly like what he's doing, but I know that he does that basic rhythm and keeps that boom boom bop bop boom boom bum, you know, kind of thing going on. And then when he gets low, he doesn't really do the octave thing. I think when he gets to the F, he's kind of, and then I think he goes back on the E. And I like doing octaves on the walk up. He may or may not do that. He might just go. He doesn't do it on the F. So I like adding a little variation, but kind of still staying there. Sean, you actually missed it. I did some Home at Last earlier. So guys, that's Soul Night Live. That's my buddy Sean, and I'm gonna do it again for him. Why not? Let me pull up the music. I've been copying and pasting it over to a file on Paint so that I have it ready to go. So the beginning is not super duper exciting, so I'm just gonna go where the bass, you know, kind of comes in. Yeah, so there's that whole thing. I think I started on the wrong part. That's okay. The next part's kind of cool. And then what's it? Skipping around. Yeah, so there's all that kind of stuff. I have to scroll to it though. Yeah, stuff like that. But anyway, there's part of it's got chopped off on the page, but that was kind of fun. Yeah, so there's a lot of, like I was saying earlier, so I was doing all that Chuck Rainey stuff, and then when somebody mentioned that they wanted to hear Bernadette, and I remembered it right before the live stream, I pulled this book out, and it turns out, you know, they got a whole bunch of different bass players to play the original lines that James Jamerson did, and a couple of the other bass players of Motown, but they got Chuck Rainey to play Bernadette, so it's kind of cool. That's why it's got his name on the corner. So there's like CDs that come with the book, and they had to re-record all of them, and they used all these famous bass players. It looks like Marcus Miller did the Stevie Wonder "I Was Made to Love Her" bass line on this remake, not on the original. You know, on the original it's mostly James Jamerson, and they got looks like Nathan Watts on "Nowhere to Run," and just a whole bunch of different players. They're just really, really good bass players. And got them to play the old classic traps. Jimmy Haslip was on here. So that's why I like this book, John Patitucci. So because James Jamerson inspired so many people, they even have Geddy Lee in here. I don't think he played any of the lines. Yeah, he did. He played part of Get Ready. But yeah, even Geddy Lee appears in this book. So that's why I had to buy that book. Was just it had all those people in there, and it had all those James Jamerson lines, which is kind of fun. Yep. Yeah, you can definitely tell that Chuck Rainey listened to some James Jamerson stuff. Is Sir Duke in there? I don't think Sir Duke is in here because I don't know if they consider that Motown at that point of his career. So I don't Stevie Wonder's career. So I don't think Sir Duke is in here. But it has the older Motown stuff. So looks like there says something that says non-Motown medley. What is that? I don't know. But anyway, it's a cool book. But I got it because I was wanting to have some challenging stuff to try to sight read. And that's some challenging stuff to try to sight read, and I'm still not really on par to be able to do it at full speed. I have to take things at a much slower tempo. And that's why that's one of my goals for this year, is to get my ability to where I can just read any of those lines like it's nothing. Of course, I'm going to run out of lines if I keep practicing using that. But basically just trying to read stuff on that level is the point. So, yeah. So it's kind of cool just going through all of those. But let's see. So I want to see what else you other guys are into. So what have you guys been practicing this week? It looks like Navik said earlier that he was working on classical thump and higher ground. Those are always fun. So it's a lot of slap bass stuff, higher ground. So that one's always fun to try. And then obviously classical thump is kind of a pain in the hand. That blister on my finger from trying to do the Everybody Dance line earlier might prevent me from doing too much of the, yep. Yeah, it's a little too painful. Yeah, so it's kind of preventing me from being able to do it right, but I like classical thump because it starts simple and then works its way up to the complexity. So it's like you start with just slapping, then you have some down and up with the thumb eventually. But first it's slapping, then it's hammering onto the slap. So you're slap and hammering on. And then the next level, it's like you're shifting gears kind of. So the next one is going. Ow. Yeah, that hurt a little too much. Yeah, so that part's pretty tricky. Yeah, so classical thump was one of those that I didn't really know about Victor Wooten until I was in high school. And then when I was in high school, I got another book that I don't have around here, but would also be a good resource, where basically he transcribed a whole bunch of his own songs. So it's not like somebody else wrote down his bass lines and, got notes wrong and stuff. It was him writing down his bass lines, and he took the time to do that. So to me, that book was really good. And it has a picture of him on the cover. It's like the book is black, and it has him like tuning his bass probably while playing, or he was doing one of those things. And then Seth, yes, you did mention the Benny Golson jazz bass walking line on Killer Joe. You did mention that. I just missed that comment again when I scrolled back up the second time. Very cool. But anybody else? I noticed we got some more people on here. Anybody else working on anything cool? Or just what are you guys working on this week? It's cool if you're working on exercises and not songs. That's something cool too. I haven't been doing too much exercises and stuff. I've mostly been working on songs. I do think that warming up is a good idea, and I don't always warm up enough. But just doing like the 4 fingers per fret or 1 finger per fret, 4 finger exercise is kind of a good one. So Jeff says, can you record just one note on a loop pedal and play it over and over to get used to how the notes sound? You can. Usually you'd have to let it ring out long enough, and it would play over and over again, so it would sound like there'd be an attack to the note, depending on when you started it. I wonder if I hit the note before I hit the loop pedal, would it just kind of sound like it's pulsing volume wise? I'm gonna try this. No, it still sounds like I'm hitting it because the sustain's just not that long. So yeah, you can do that with the loop pedal if you wanted to. And you can play other notes against it to kind of hear how notes sound against that note. Oops, I accidentally played a note when I was doing that. So you can hear how other notes in the scale sound against that one note. So that's kind of fun. That's a good thing to do. Awesome. So Navik says he's working on some band music, just some jazz stuff. That's pretty good. Awesome stuff. So I guess I'm just going to make up a loop I'm going to do something a little bit jazzy since you said a jazz thing. Let's see. So I think I'm just going to do a kind of 2-5-1 thing. Or sorry. I'll probably do that kind of progression. Let's see. Okay. I'm just going to leave that loop. Okay, so we got that. So what if I tried to double time it? Oh, I didn't play in time well enough to do that. Okay. Yeah, I didn't stay in time. So I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do that so I can double time it so there's twice as much stuff going on there. Kind of annoying, but it's okay. I can do that. That's kind of fun. I'm going to loop the bass line and then do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that was really bad. I know how to walk. Yeah, kind of fun just doing that. You guys hear that okay? Cool. So basically on that, all I'm doing is just walking over the changes. So I did a 2-5-1 into G major, and then I did a 2-5-1 into the relative minor, which is E minor. So that's all I was doing there. A lot of songs do this, like Autumn Leaves starts that way, and then moves on from there. And it has a chord connecting the two. It has a C chord thrown in there. So you 2-5-1 into G. Well, and if you're in the key of G, some people do it in the key of G minor, which would be B flat major. And some people do it in the key of E minor, which would be G major, as its relative. So yeah, depending on that, but they usually do a progression very similar to that at the beginning of it. It's just you connect those 2-2-5-1s with a C chord in the middle of them. So if you thought about it all in relation to G, it'd be like 2-5-1-4. The C chord would be your 4 chord, and then you're doing a 2-5-1 to the minor. Or you can think about it as the 7 chord going to the 3 chord, going to the 6 chord. But that's confusing. So you guys, some of you get the idea, and some of you don't overthink it, because it might be kind of just something that you learn in the future. But yeah, but a lot of you guys might already know that, I know. Seth says he's working on Circle of Fifths. Cool. Trying to memorize the notes real well so that when you get a fretless bass, it's easier to do. That sounds like a good call there. And then Circle of Fifths. It's kind of, I mean, I'm going up in fourths when I'm doing the progression I was doing there. And then Navik says he liked the country walk-in lesson. Use the notation from that lesson. Okay. Good stuff for improving reading. Yeah. So yeah, same thing. I know I end up leaving the tab at the bottom too, but there's a lot of stuff to work on with reading there. But there's going to be a second part to that lesson. Those walks were like 2-beat walk-ups. So like if you're doing a half note line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, here's the walk, dun, 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 right? And then that last one I was doing was a 4-note walk-in, which is what the next ones will cover, is basically just some common 4-note walk-ins. So one thing to do that's common is going from the 1 chord to the 4 chord. You can hit the root of that first chord twice and then walk up the scale into the next one. And then if you're going from a chord here to a whole step above it, it's like if you're going from your 4 chord to your 5 chord, you can go backwards 1 fret, which is a note that's in the scale, back to the 4 chord, the root of the 4 chord, which is of course in the scale too. And then because you're going to end up here, you can just fill in the gap with a chromatic note. And that's a chromatic passing tone that gets you to the 5 chord. Yeah, and so it's bluegrass, it's country western, it's a 2-feel in jazz. And I haven't gotten a chance, Seth, to check out what you were saying about that crossover of country and jazz that was happening. But basically, it makes sense because there's a jazz feel called the 2-feel. And a lot of times people play the melody over it. And that 2-feel is essentially a 1-5 line. It's essentially a root 5th line with a little bit more bounce to it and a little more notes filling in between. So like a country 2-feel would sound like, right? You know, that kind of stuff. The stuff that we were just talking about. And a jazz 2-feel might just have more variations to what's happening in between. So like, let's say I was going to do a 2-feel over that same progression that I was doing before. So that sounds really country, right? So on a jazz 2-feel, you might go. You know, that kind of thing. So you might give a little bit of a different variety. One thing that's different sometimes is you might sustain the notes a little bit longer on a jazz 2-feel, unless you're doing like Dixieland kind of stuff, where you might do short staccato notes, kind of like you would in country as well. So yes, it's definitely the same concept in bluegrass, country, older country stuff, and a jazz 2-feel. Polka bass lines are probably fairly similar. You know, so a lot of different styles have that 2-feel, and it's everywhere. So great ear for hearing that it's also what happens in bluegrass. So yeah, bluegrass, blast. Try to say Johnny Cash at the same time as saying bluegrass, Johnny Cash kind of country. You know, just older school country. You know, obviously, like the '90s stuff and the newer stuff doesn't always do that kind of line, but but that's there. And then sometimes these chromatic ideas and these walks work even when the song's not in 4/4. You just change the rhythm, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Like you've heard that in like I don't know, some like blues and soul stuff, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. Yeah, and I Walk the Line uses a lot of those 4-beat walk-ins. I'm trying to think. Yeah, so a lot of those things I'm talking about are in I Walk the Line. But what's interesting about that is the bass isn't actually what plays it. It's Johnny Cash playing on the guitar doing that part. And for some reason, the bass doesn't double him or anything. Bass just does the root fifth line and maybe throws in his own 2-beat walks occasionally underneath the verse when that giant walking part on Walk the Line isn't happening. So yeah. Good stuff there. Does anybody here have any questions or any other things to say? Any other things that you guys worked on? I know there are a few people here that must be being silent right now because it seems like there are a few more people on here. So feel free to say what you've been working on, and that's cool. So back here, there's a question from Novix. Saying, I want some flats sometime. Are they worth the $50 price tag? I think they're definitely worth it because like just being able to slide, kind of have fun with them. And you can play fast on them since they're not sticky. Yeah, so I would say they are worth it. And so far, this is still the same pair, so that works. Cool. So we got, hey, Jacob, how's it going? And then Jay Freeman says, is there anything I can practice with a missing D string? There's a lot of stuff you can practice with the missing D string. If you like disco lines, there are a lot of kind of disco songs that just you can practice doing octaves, just walking up a scale in octaves using the A string and the G string. So there are some things you can practice. Songs in particular, it might be kind of tricky sometimes, but you can practice things like octaves. You can practice doing that. It's like doubling each note on an octave. Right, so you can do things of that nature. I had that 1-string blues challenge one time because I broke the D string on a gig. So what I had to do was figure out the blues patterns that I would have normally done because I was playing in a blues band at the time. And so I had to figure out stuff like that. So you can challenge yourself to play the same things you know by adding 5 frets to the notes that would have been on the D string to get them onto the A string. So that's another thing you can do as well. So I hope that helps a little bit. And then Jacob says, I've made 5 new riffs on my baritone ukulele in the past 2 weeks. That's awesome. Yeah, it's good. It's fun writing stuff, and it's good to practice writing too. I think the closest thing I do to practicing writing right now is just doing the loop pedal stuff, just kind of coming up with random things. Okay, so Navik says, I have round wounds on my Journeyman. Does that defeat the purpose of getting the flats? This came with rounds, and I got flats for it. The reason that I like the flats is I can slide on them, and I can slide on them comfortably. With the round wounds, I feel like when I slide on them, that it rips the flesh off my finger. And then the skin gets stuck in the strings and eventually causes the strings to sound kind of dead. So to me, that's one big advantage of them. I like the sound overall that it gets better because they're a lot less noisy. Like, for instance, do this on your bass plugged in, and let me know what you hear. You know, it's like there's just a lot less string noise, and they just have a totally different tone. So if you like the tone, then that's cool. Hey, Emmy, how's it going? So guys, if you like kind of indie music with a really good female singer on top, and sometimes it gets more kind of atmospheric and ambient, check out Emmy. And she goes live on Twitch and stuff a lot too. But I play bass with her sometimes, and I've played on a couple of her songs as well. And I highly recommend checking her stuff out. That's cool that you stopped by. Thanks for stopping by. But yeah, I played several shows with her, and there are a couple of songs on like Spotify and some other, just whatever you use to listen, like Apple Music and all that stuff. I'm trying to remember which ones I was on. I think it was it Under My Feet and Kid? Were those the two? Was I on another one besides those and just forgot? Can't even remember for sure. But there is definitely a song called Kid that was on there. Oh, thanks, Emmy. But yeah, if you should definitely check her out if you like music like that, or if you want to hear what I do on kind of just a session work, you can check those songs out. I was on Under My Feet, right? I'm not making that one up. And then Kid for sure. There's a song that she has called Kid. If you just type Emmy Law. So if you spell her name, just stop after the W, Emmy Law, on Spotify. Let me see if I can find it on here so I can show you what the picture looks like. Mm-hmm. Man, you've done so many songs since then that are so much more popular than the ones that I've been on. That's funny. Let's see discography. So one of the songs that I was on was Kid. So if you look for one with a picture like that, if you can see that, it's not all washed out. Oh well, I tried, but it was fun recording with her too. So if you're curious about it, I think I used the Warrior bass on that one. So that 6-string that I haven't used in a long time. That's pretty cool. Wasn't she on your old videos where you streamed your gigs? There were a couple of gigs of hers that I streamed. Yeah, where I was playing. I think there was one where I actually played U-bass on it. Very cool. Awesome. But yeah, if you like that kind of music, definitely check her out. She's really good at it, and she does a lot of new things. I'm not on all the stuff, but I'm on a couple of tracks, so it's kind of fun. And she's got some other good bass players on the other stuff. Very cool. But yeah. Why don't we do another one of those loop pedal jams where you guys give me a style? You gotta do something slightly different today. I'm gonna see if you guys remember what I normally do, and see if you guys can pick something that's slightly out there or something. And then one of you guys give me a key, and somebody else can give me a style, and I'll try to make something up, and hopefully it'll sound okay. Latin jazz, okay. So I'm going to combine the two. I'm going to combine Latin jazz with the G major part. So I'm just going to do Latin jazz and G major. I'm going to try to give it like this percussive thing. And it's going to be like a bossa nova, I think. So I'm going to mix them up. So basically I'm going to do Latin jazz in G major, and then do the island one in the key that Seth gave me, since you guys are the only two kind of suggesting stuff. So I'm going to try doing this this pattern. So basically my thumb's trying to get the bass drum part, boom, 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 kind of like a heartbeat. And then this part is going to try to get what a clave would do. So I'm going to go. So I should probably do no, I'll do it that way. Okay, here we go. Oh, I didn't make it long enough to do a progression over it. Oh, yeah, it's not long enough. All right, I'm going to try this again so I can do a longer version, but you get the idea. Yeah, we're gonna have that little thing where it loops again. No, I'm not gonna add all that. That's cool. Cool. So I'm trying to think island. So when I think of island, I think of some very generic bass patterns that probably somebody else on certain islands would probably come up with something more interesting. I always think of that like, kind of. Well, that's not really it. So something like that, but in D flat, I guess. I'm trying to think of something more interesting. That to me sounds, that's what you're probably wanting with the Latin jazz, was something a little bit different. But I'll do the D flat, but I'll do some sort of island thing. Something like that. We'll see. Oh no. Forgot that it was going to loop automatically. It didn't record. Okay, it's just a longer loop than I thought it was. gotta remember what the progression was. I'll leave that in there, even though there's a note in there, it's kind of iffy. Cool. All right. That was kind of fun. A little different, doing some island vibes and some Latin jazz. Latin jazz thing kind of reminds me when I do the 7/8. That thing is kind of Latin sort of sounding too. I'm just gonna make something up now. I'll probably do. I want to do like E minor or something like I was just doing. Let's see. Didn't quite work. try to do the same thing with the slap and pop. Oh, I didn't get it quite. Not quite working. I think I played the bass line out of time. Oh well. Kind of like that. I did it all the way around. That was kind of fun. So I like that. I started doing the little flamenco thing when I saw your comment, Seth. It's like that's totally what it needs, is a little bit of like the tremolo. Oh, is that what it's like now? It's like surf music too? I was still going off that Latin kind of thing. I wonder what happens if I use a pick on the flat one strings. Can I get the tremolo picking? it stand out from the bass line a little bit more. I was going to try to at the end, but I missed it. Very fun, very fun. Yeah, no whammy bar on the U bass. That's what they need to make next. Colin needs to add a bar on there so that we can hit notes and bend them down instead of having to detune and retune our instruments, right? That's the next thing, right? So let's see. I wonder if I can make that part of a song without messing it up. I don't know. Nope. Not as talented as Victor. He does all that stuff. I'm trying to remember what he did. Oh well. You get the idea. You can do some cool stuff with harmonics. Yeah, and detuners for U-bass would be cool. Or you could just get the 5-string or get a fretless, and then you can slide everywhere, and sliding kind of sounds like bending. But that's the idea. Guys, thank you all so much for hanging out. Do you have any questions or anything else before we call it for the week? Anybody have anything that they're just curious about on the U-bass, or anyone want to mention last minute what they've been working on this past week? Now that you know kind of my list of all these songs that I'm working on in order to be able to play out with some people. Not really out. We're not playing a gig. I think it's more like just jamming and playing in with people. Oh, thank you so much, Navix. Yeah, I don't know that I'm underrated. There's so many really, really good bass players around everywhere. Just you look above and below and all sorts of places. There are people everywhere that can really, really play. And I think a lot of people that during this time of mostly being stuck at home, I think a lot of people have had a lot of time to play even more. So some of them are probably going to come out of the gates when we have gigs again, just like really, really playing some awesome stuff. That's cool. Oh, thanks. But yeah, anybody else have any last minute questions before we call it? Anything that you're just curious about, U-bass wise, or just bass in general, just any sort of thing? Any questions about reading, or I'm trying to think of what other things it could be. Just gear, just different strings, different basses. Just any final questions? Going once, going twice. someone made the mistake of detuning that string. Why is it that U basses are not more well known? I think it's because a lot of people don't use them in public performances enough. So they are more known than they've ever been because people are using them in performance settings more than ever. But a lot of times people will play an upright bass instead, or they'll play, they'll just play electric bass. So I think the more we get into it, the further in time we get, the more we'll see them on stages and in different gigs. And the more bigger names that keep using them on gigs, I think it'll get there. And then, okay, Jay Freeman's got one more. Is it easy to replace U-bass strings by yourself? Should a beginner attempt it? So what I'm going to say is the only strings that I've really replaced is I took off the round wound strings to put on the flat wound strings. I feel like with the rubber strings, basically with the Thunder Guts, I feel like you could do it and it wouldn't be that hard. The main thing that you got to remember is that you want to like kind of hold down slightly on the string while you're winding it so that when it wraps around, it wraps underneath the previous one. But I mean, otherwise you're just feeding the string through the hole and it has a knot on that end if it's the rubber string, and otherwise it has some sort of end that won't go through the body, on the end. You feed it through, you get it up to here. You unless you're using the Pahoehoes, in which case there's a video Kala made where you can do a little tie around the D string and maybe the G string to get them to stay on the tuners better. But otherwise you can just take, you may want to cut the strings to where they're not super far past there. If you're doing the metal strings, you don't want them to be super far past the tuners. You may just want them like 2 to 3 inches beyond the tuners. So like if you're doing the E string, measure from here and just, have enough string to hang off there, and then cut the end of the string, then put the string down in the hole, hold it down and just twist it around. I didn't cut them short enough. As you can see, they're wrapped around quite a few times here. I think it's better to cut the strings a little bit. If you're using the rubber strings, you don't want to cut them too far because they stretch a lot. And so as they're stretching, it might kind of pull on the string that's wrapped around. So you just want to give it a little bit of extra string. But I would watch tutorials if you're changing rubber strings to rubber. But otherwise, just watch any bass string changing tutorial for metal strings, because they're really not any harder than any bass guitar strings to change out. But the rubber strings might be a little bit more difficult. So a beginner could attempt it, but if it's your only bass, you may want to get someone else to do it. But it's not too bad, and there's a YouTube video for everything. So just know that certain strings are going to require a little bit more work than other ones. So that's the main thing. All right. I hope that helped. I know it's kind of a weird answer to the question, but thank you guys for tuning in. I'm hoping to do some more videos like that would answer those questions about changing the rubber strings. And, when I'm about to need new strings for the Wanderer. So when I go to get new strings for that, maybe I'll make a video of me changing it to tell you what the difficulties are. And then that way you guys will have a little bit more background on that, rather than people just telling you how to do it. Okay, this is what it's like. This is the part that you want to watch out for, that kind of stuff. So I don't think it's too bad though, because when I did the repair on the other bass, where I cut the saddle into 4 different pieces to get the string volume even. When I did that, I had to take the strings off from here. And when I put them back on, they were the Thunder Guts. I put them back on like I would an electric bass string by just putting the end of the string down in the hole and then holding it down while I'm tightening it. And it worked just fine. So with the Pahoehoes, you might have to tie the knot on there that Kala recommends. There's a video of them showing you how to do that. But otherwise you can just put them on like electric bass strings, basically. So I think a beginner could do that. All right. So yeah, Seth says my Thunder Reds install is easier than I thought. Did you put the ends of the strings down in the hole, or did you have them going through? Because I know some people do that where they have them going through and then they leave a lot of extra room, and then after the strings are stretched, they cut them. Just out of curiosity. So let us know, Seth, since you've actually done that, and otherwise we'll call it a night after that. So Seth was able to do it just by putting the ends of the string in the hole. Cool. So most of the strings that works, and with the Pahoe Hoes, they recommend not doing that because they're a little slicker, I think, and they stretch a little bit more. So just to know that. Very cool. Oh, cool. You're getting the Thunder Reds. Awesome. Well, then, yeah, you may want to ask Seth about it, to see what he did. But I think it would just be like changing electric bass strings, basically. So watch a tutorial or two on it so you just understand that while you're tightening it, you want to push down on the string a little bit so that it doesn't wrap on top of the coil and end up, just unraveling. But it's a small detail, but it can make a big difference on how well it wraps around the tuner. All right. Cool. All right, guys. Well, I will see you next time, and have a good week. I will be around for a Tuesday video. I'm just going to do the follow-up to the other Western country style lines, where I'm doing the 4-beat walks. And then next Thursday, I'll be back for another live stream. I think the following week, I'm going to try to do a Patreon request for the Tuesday video. But I will see you guys next time. Have a good week, and have fun playing bass. And you bass. Bye, guys.